to you live from Tennessee, from the east to the west. We are talking Cowboys everything. And you just entered
the Cowboy Zone.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cowboy Zone. I'm your host, Marcus Jones with Love City Cowboy, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. And we are getting ready for another exciting episode of the Cowboy Zone. As you guys can see, I'm rolling solo right now. My co-host Lambo has some personal things to take care of, but he will be joining us within the next 20 minutes. So up until then, we're going to talk a little 53-man roster, and I'm going to touch on a topic that I've been kind of wanting to hit on for the past 3 weeks. I've hinted on this for the past couple of weeks, just talking about special teams, and you guys hear me always talking about the importance of special teams and why I think the way I think about certain players and their chances of making the team. So before my guy Lambo comes in, I want to touch on that a little bit and just give you guys some insight on some of my thoughts on special teams and why certain players are on the roster who may not be the contributors that we would like on offense or defense, and why those guys have better chances of making the team historically than some of the guys that we normally cheer for, either undrafted guys or rookies that are kind of our pet cats, or guys who have been kind of at the bottom of the roster who we felt like haven't gotten a chance, or guys that have been cut in the past and we all wonder kind of why that guy didn't make the team. So before my guy Lambo comes in, I'm going to hit you guys with a little bit of that. I see we got a couple people watching. What's up, Mendoza? Thank you for joining as always. I see the numbers are starting to grow pretty quickly. So everybody who's watching right now, make sure you hit that like button and also get in the comments to let me know that you're here. I can see the number of people watching, but I can't see exactly who's watching. And I always like to give everybody shouts out and thank you for joining us on the Cowboy Zone. All right, Dominique, appreciate you tuning in as always. If you're going to be here for a while, I definitely appreciate your insight, as well as Mendoza. Richard Woodard, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you watching us for a few minutes. You always leave great comments as well, so looking forward to getting your feedback. I see we got a couple other people who are watching as well. Again, make sure you like this. Make sure you get in the comments and let me know that you're here. And more importantly, make sure you share this. Share it to your favorite Cowboys group. Share it to your personal page if you feel the need to share it. I'm going to talk about some good Cowboys insight and also give my early pre-training camp predictions on who's going to make the team and who's not. And we kind of doing a continuation of what we did last week. Cooley, appreciate it. I know you're working on the at the airport right now, so thank you for sticking your head in for a few minutes and checking us out. So like I said before, we're going to talk 53-man roster tonight. Lambo and I each made our own individual list. And when he joins us, we're going to go through each one of our lists and talk about who we think will make the 53-man roster. Professor O, thank you for joining, man. And thank you for the information on the tweets too. I know you've been taking care of that baby, but you still been watching the Cowboys news and notes. So thank you for keeping me up to date on that. I mean, to be honest, I don't really follow training camp at this point in time because I feel like it's all just whatever the front office feeds them to say. It's all about narratives at this point. If they want the fan base to think a certain player is looking really good, we're going to hear about so-and-so got an interception in third team defense offense. And so-and-so is making plays left and right. And if they want somebody to look bad, you're going to hear about him sitting out. You're going to hear about he didn't look comfortable, even though it's week 1, week 2 of OTAs. And some of these guys are just coming on the team for the first time. There's been no scheme installed. And we're hearing stuff about, well, this player doesn't look comfortable or this player looks stiff or this player looks lost. And then another player who we all can tell by reading the tea leaves, the team really wants the fan base to get behind. You'll hear about this certain player. Oh, he got a sack in team drills, or he got an interception on our number 4 quarterback, or he looks really fluid in space, stuff like that. So because of those reasons, I don't really follow OTAs. But if a couple of things kind of stand out here and there, I'll definitely kind of keep my ears open to them. So let me go through these comments because you guys are coming in pretty quick. I don't know if I said it, but what's up, Geechee? Thank you for joining. I know you got a ton of podcasts you watch, so thank you for tuning in with us. Mark Canner, same for you as well. I always appreciate your great insight. Matt Owen, thank you for sharing this on Twitter. I appreciate that. And guys, if you haven't done so already, make sure you share it also. And I see Cooley agrees with me. It's all about narratives at this point. We can't see anything as fans. We're fortunate enough to get some training camp this year, so I'm really not paying attention to OTAs right now because everything they tell me right now, we should pretty much be able to see it for ourselves in a month. Richard Woodard says, have I heard anything about Joseph yet? They're keeping it under wraps. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's an injury. This is another one of those narrative things. You hear he's out, but you don't hear anything about an injury. So it's almost like they want you to speculate on what's going on with him. So yeah, definitely. But hopefully something to come out about him as time goes on. Again, it's week 2 of OTAs. I'm not really concerned about a guy missing at this point. And Mendoza says, yes, Simi, definitely one of those guys that they want to push the narrative on. So we'll definitely keep track of him as we move forward. Matt Owen said, did I see they're expecting the roster changes from last year? That would be great. Before the whole COVID thing hit, the practice squad was at, I believe, eight players. And I think it's kind of historically been 8 or 10. Last year, they moved it to 12. And then once COVID hit and the players got concerned, they bumped it up to 16. So it'll be great to hear that they're actually going to keep it at 16 and also keep those same rules in place where a guy, no matter how long he's been in the league, can be on the practice squad. Because in years past, you could only have 2 players on your practice squad with, I believe, at least 4 years vested. And everybody else kind of had to be 3 years or less. Yeah, Mendoza says he's not being impressive. Definitely something to pique your curiosity. I would put that along the lines of the narratives with all these receivers we have in undrafted free agency. I think they want to make us think everybody has a shot. So you really don't know at this point. But once the pads come on, we'll definitely see what's what. And Matt, yeah, hit me up with that tweet, man. And keep sending me stuff too. I appreciate that. You definitely are on top of things like that, and I definitely appreciate reading great Cowboys news and notes and staying up to date. James Gary, thank you for joining us as always, man. Appreciate your support watching from YouTube. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe. I'm Bluff City Cowboys. My co-host Lambo is Cowboys, y'all. And Matto, I got my phone right here. So if you want to send it to me, feel free to send that as well. I'd like to take a look at it. Okay, so just paying attention to news and notes from OTAs. And thanks, Matto. I just got it. The only thing that really stood out to me from what I've seen this week is they're finally doing what I've wanted them to do from day one with Tony Pollard and putting him in the slot more. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm from Memphis. I've been here more than half my life. I grew up an hour away from Memphis, so I've always been kind of in tune with the Memphis athletic scene. I've watched at least 90% of every snap of football Tony Pollard has played since the 8th grade. He went to a historic high school, Melrose High. in the heart of Orange Mound, the second largest black community in the country. So that team has always kind of had a lot of recognition in the city and in the tri-state area. And he was a star there. He was a star in 8th grade. I cannot remember him getting a single snap of running back snaps in high school. He was a pure wide receiver and cornerback and kick returner all through high school. This is not somebody what I've heard. This is what I've seen from watching all of his games. On top of that, because I lived in Memphis, I watched every University of Memphis game. Tony Pollard was a wide receiver at Memphis. I know the fans who don't follow him, they saw him drafted and we call him a running back. Tony Pollard was a wide receiver at the University of Memphis. I would be shocked if any season he had more than 35 total carries for the season. That's 3 carries a game. That's not even what I would consider running back snaps. He probably had 60, 70 receptions a season, but he only got about 30 carries. The only game I can remember that he had more than 10 carries in a game was his very last game of his college career. And I believe it was a bowl game. I don't remember the team right now, but it was a bowl game. And I think he had about 12 carries. And then Darrell Henderson had about 15 or 16. So Tony Pollard hasn't played running back his whole career. So for the fans who are watching, don't feel like we're screwing around with a player and putting them out of position. Wide receiver is his natural position, in my opinion. You can tell by his movement skills and his speed and his agility. He's just a guy who can break tackles, but he is a wide receiver. And I feel like if they do this more, and I've been calling for it for years, I know Lambo's been calling for it for years. If they do this, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it because it gets another weapon on the field. And Richard, he is pretty good at running back. I'm not taking anything away from him at the running back position. I'm just saying we haven't seen his best. His best is wide receiver. And I feel like if we put him at wide receiver and use his ability to get yak yards and run after the catch and break tackles, it's going to make our offense even more explosive because now we don't have to worry about him trying to get yardage out of the backfield. He can use his quickness to get himself open, and then as a receiver, use his running back skills to break tackles and be elusive. So yeah, Matt O breaking a story tonight saying they tweeted they're going to the 16-man practice squad again. And that's a great thing because what we're going to talk about tonight with this 53-man roster, I've been tweeting this. I've been saying it every week. Practice squad is not a bad thing. Everybody feels like if their favorite guy doesn't make the 53-man roster, that the team is giving up on him, that he's an awful player, and that he'll never be seen again. Practice squad is a great thing for certain young players. And the beauty of it going to 16, if we think of it outside of just being Cowboys, we have a bunch of guys that were undrafted free agents we really like. The Giants have a bunch of guys too. So do the Eagles. So do the Raiders. So do the Dolphins. They all have guys who are on their rosters that they drafted late or they picked up as undrafted free agents, and they like those guys. So the more spots that these teams have for guys that they like, the less likely that they may poach a guy from our 53-man, from our 90-man roster that we may want to keep on our practice squad. So, Matt, I know you said the 16-man practice squad thing again. I wonder if they're going to bring the untouchables list back too, where if you have a guy on your practice squad you like, you can list him where no team can poach him. So that would be interesting to see as well. And Mark Counter, great point. I don't understand why people get upset with getting a playmaker on the field. I agree with that 100% as well. I mean, this is an offensive league. You want to get your best 6 skill guys on the field at one time to make plays. And it gives you abilities to play different games schematically with teams because you can line them up in the backfield and then put them out wide. You can shift them different spots. It allows you to put CeeDee Lamb different places. So there's a lot of stuff that could possibly happen from this. Matt Owen, Wright may make people eat crow. Again, we're early in OTAs. We're hearing good things about them. But like I said, that's what the front office wants to push as a narrative. I'm gonna temper expectations on him. I mean, from what I hear, it all sounds good. Apparently, he doesn't sound lost. One of his strengths was his length and his ability to make plays on the ball. So it sounds like he can do that. So we just keep watching him, see what he looks like in pads. Because I heard the same things about Chris Westry 4 years ago, and I don't think he ever touched the field defensively for the Cowboys. Richard Wood says if they move him to wide receiver, who won't make the team at wide out? Honestly, Richard, I don't think this will affect the wide receiver room. Well, I take that back. I think it will, but let me make this statement first. Like Mark said, this is all about getting your playmakers on the field. Tony Pollard will probably be still considered our number 2 running back. But if you look at Zeke dominates the carries in the backfield. So even if he does play wide receiver, I don't think in a game where Zeke was healthy, he ever got more than 5 rushes. And someone can fact check me on that. I'm going off the top of my head. I could be wrong. When you have a guy that talented, he needs at least 10 touches a game, in my opinion, whether it be a running back, wide receiver, what have you. So I feel like this isn't jeopardizing a wide receiver. I think it's giving more snaps to one of your most dynamic players. Now, where it does affect wideouts is, and I talk about this every year, Dallas has historically only gotten 20 catches or less from their number 4 and 5 receivers. And I know people will say, okay, it's a different team. It's a different coaching staff. You can look at 2020, you can look at 2019. It's the same thing. The number 4 receiver, number 1, 2, and 3 are dominant in terms of catches. The number 4 and number 5, they're lucky to get 1 catch a game. So now, if you put a guy like Tony Pollard at wide receiver, those 18 catches a season, not a game, a season. In a 16-game season, your number 4 receiver only has about 18 catches. If Tony Pollard starts to steal some of those, they're not coming from Coop. They're not coming from Gallup. They're not coming from Lamb. They're coming from your number 4 and number 5 receiver. And what that does is that makes that position even less valuable for the offense. And that's when the special team abilities come more into play. And that's kind of what I've been preaching for about 3 or 4 years now for you guys that follow me. Before I had a podcast, I would be in other people's podcasts making these comments. Special teams is important for the for the receivers past the number 3 guy. And Matt Owen says a lot of these undrafted guys we broke down have a better chance to stick. They do, based on special teams play. And I'm going to talk about special teams a little bit. And as of right now, the 53 man I have right now, that's just based off of preliminary. I can see a lot of these changes, a lot of these things changing. And to be honest, for you guys that follow the show, you know how much I have praised Noah Brown. To be honest, I'm a little afraid for Noah Brown right now because they're making some changes in terms of special teams that are making me think like they're planning on going to their next core group. Just like in 2018, when our core group was Rod Smith and Kayvon Frazier, Damian Wilson, Joe Thomas, Justin March. In 2018, those were our 5 top special teams guys, and all of them left after that. So I kind of feel like every couple of years they start to shift out the old special teams guys and they build a new core. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm starting to feel like they're trying to make the next wave of the special teams core come in. But until I see that, I still have very high regards for the guys who've been our core special teams the past couple of years. Brent Widener looks like a new name, so thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like this video. Make sure you go to my page, Bluff City Cowboys. Find me on social media on YouTube at Bluff City Cowboys as well. Help me get those subscribers up. And Jack Meeker, I'm just like you. I am not afraid of being wrong. I'm not the type of guy that's going to sit here and make you guys think I'm football Jesus. And I'm going to tell you stuff and everything I say is right. And I'm not humble enough to say I'm wrong on it. I want to see the best team out there. Most of the times when I say stuff, I try to keep it as neutral as possible. And I try to look at it from what I've seen the team do and how I feel they're trying to develop and build a roster. I try my hardest not to put my feelings into it, but sometimes, you just like a player so much, you just have to keep kind of putting it out there in the atmosphere to hope you get some good karma behind them. And Matto, again, I agree. It doesn't impact the wide receiver group. It could indirectly because it takes away some of the value of your number 4, number 5 receiver and makes special teams that much more important. But I don't think that makes us go with one less receiver than we would have if we didn't play Pollard at receiver. Yeah, Mark Counter backs me up as well. And then Brent Widener says they'll more or less use him as Zeke running back. It's the perfect situation for this offense with O-line issues. And I wish my guy Jeff was here, Jeff Dunnigan, who's in the comments often. He's always told me about this scenario where, because Zeke is such a great route runner as well, where you put both of them in the backfield and you line up Zeke to look almost like a fullback, and then you motion one of them out wide. Or you keep them both there and run one of them with a route out of the backfield. Because those guys can't be covered by linebackers. So that's something maybe we'll see a little bit more of. And Brent Widener, I didn't even read your comment before I said that. But that's exactly what I was thinking. Line both of them up behind Dak. You can keep Zeke in a fullback spot, or you can go shotgun with 2 running backs. Let one of these guys split out the slot, or just let them run a route out of the backfield. It doesn't matter. Linebackers can't cover them. And if they try to go to nickel or dime, then you just keep feeding them. They try to stick with 4-3, you put them out there and see if their linebacker can cover them. It's one of those games we need to play a little bit more of. Hey, Nix, what's up, man? Appreciate you joining us. Appreciate you tuning in. And Mendoza asked a great question. We don't see a lot of 5 sets. But the question is, would you rather have Jarman and TP as 4 and 5 compared with Sayed and Noah? That would probably be the ideal matchup for me because, like I just talked about, you can start Pollard off in the backfield as the running back. And then if you have your 3 wide receiver sets and you have Jarman at tight end, you're playing 11 personnel, which means 1 tight end, 1 running back. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, my guy Boss Cowboy is going to do a great breakdown of team formation sets and what that means to the defense. So if you guys get a chance, if he hasn't done that already, make sure you go follow him and he'll break that down a lot better. But basically, what I'm saying is when a team has 1 tight end and running back, it almost dictates what they're going to do defensively. So they're either going to play a 4-3 or a base set where they're going to use a linebacker to cover their tight end, or they're going to go more nickel and they're going to take a linebacker off the field and then put a DB or a safety or some type of corner safety hybrid on the field. You put TP in the backfield. If they're in a base set with 3 linebackers, you bag Dak up, you put TP out wide, and now you got a 5 wide set. You got a linebacker covering Jarwin, you got a linebacker covering TP. Pick your poison. And if they try to go nickel or dime, you put TP in the backfield. You got an uneven set in the box because they're in nickel or dime. They can't load it up really, and then you just run them. Those are the type of offensive games that we need to start doing. And I know from Mendoza's question, that's kind of what he was leading me into. So I hope I hit on that, Mendoza. Brent Widener. I don't know if you've been watching the show or not in the past, but since January, I've been saying I wish Dallas would find a true center as well. We all love Tyler B. He's everybody's pet cat from the draft. But realistically, he hasn't played a full season in 3 years, going back to college. Last year, I think he only started 6 games. And according to reports last year, he had problems with the shotgun snap. And as of right now, he's the only center on our roster that has taken a NFL snap at the center position. That's concerning. And I'm right there with you. If he gets hurt, what do? We've had Joe Looney to fall back on the past 3 or 4 years. But if Tyler B gets hurt, who do we put in at center? And we have no clue how that guy's going to perform. So I'm right there with you. I'm definitely concerned about that center spot. And Matto, again, just talking about the 16-man practice squad, I definitely agree with this as well. It may actually be beneficial because, like I said before, with the 16-man practice squad, you can sneak some veterans on there as well. So if there's a veteran that nobody likes and you think nobody will pick them up, Darian Thompson, for example. If you like Darian Thompson and you want to keep him around and you don't think anybody will pick him up if you cut him, put him on a practice squad and then list him as one of those untouchable guys, and then you get to keep whoever you like. Mukwamu, for example. You get to keep him on the 53. So there are a bunch of games you can play with the 16-man practice squad. Or, for example, if there's a team out there who cuts a guy at safety and we feel like we need a little bit more seasoned veteran talent, but we don't have room on the 53, we could pick up a guy and put him on our practice squad. Teams did it all the time last year. That's something we could look into as well. Yeah, and Mendoza, honestly, with the 16-man practice squad, that's why I'm kind of changing on Noah Brown, because I feel like if he's there may be a chance we could cut him and get him on the practice squad. Unless I'm trying to think of who our former special teams coordinator was and where he may be. If we could, if our special teams coordinator formally doesn't try to pick him up, I could see that. And Mark Cantor pushing the plug for Hall of Fame already. And Jack Meeker saying he's on the semi-train, getting more excited for that big slot. And Geechee with the great comment, we use a lot of 11 and 12 personnel. We will use a lot of the 11 and 12 personnel. We have the weapons to attack any kind of defense. I definitely agree with that. Because that 11 personnel has always been dangerous for us with a guy like Zeke, who can run out of the backfield and also is a great receiver. He's had multiple 40 and 50 reception seasons. So definitely with that. And then the newly acquired 12 personnel that the team is try to put together for the past 8-9 years by drafting all these second round tight ends. I think we may finally see it come to fruition with the stepping up of Blake Jarwin last year. Not Blake Jarwin, Dalton Schultz last year when Blake Jarwin got hurt. So I feel like we're going to finally see that 12 personnel we've been looking for when the team was drafting Gavin Escobar and Martellus Bennett and James Hanna and those guys. I think we're finally going to see it this year. And again, that's going to take snaps from some of these wide receivers at the number 4, 5, and 6 spots. And Geechee says the O-lineman we drafted late would be the backup center. If you're talking about Matt Farniok, I'm a little bit concerned about that one because he has a lot of issues, and I don't think an offseason will clear him up. He plays high. He lets guys get into his chest a little bit too much. But he's a smart kid, and the toughest part about playing center is being able to call the protections. So if he can do that and he can snap the ball, we may be able to kind of work around the other stuff. But in terms of just blocking, those things kind of concern me. Honestly, I like the kid Brandon Jones more, the undrafted free agent. He has something when I watch him play a little bit. And he has that position flex to play center and guard and do it well. He has good movement skills. Yeah, Mendoza kind of backed me up. Yeah, it has become a concern, definitely. And Brent, definitely agree. It's a position you grow into. We need a veteran. You definitely need somebody who can call the protections and stuff like that. Geechee going on record early, calling Farniok the backup center. When we do the 53-man roster, Geechee, I hope you're still here because I'm interested what offensive lineman you cut to keep Farniok. Because sneak peek, I don't have Farniok on my 53 right now. Matt Owen says, I don't mind throwing the ball to Zeke, but stop with the throws in the flats. Yeah, definitely. Let him run actual routes. That's what he's good for. Mendoza, I promise you I went blank on the old special teams coordinator. It could have been O'Quinn. I'm trying to think. I really don't remember. I have to look it up. And Geechee, yeah, 12 personnel is a great personnel to close out games because you still have the ability to run, and our tight ends are so athletic that they can get downfield and get in the seams and get separation. Mark Canner says Ball has issues as well. I definitely agree with that. But we have so much depth at tackle. I think Ball can stick around and get some time to grow. The backup center is not going to have a lot of time to grow because we may need him week 3 or 4. And Professor O, thanks for backing that up. He says O'Quinn is out of the league now. I thought whoever the special teams coordinator was out of the league. And thank you for backing me up on that, Brent Winder. Yeah, Brandon Jones is very talented. He played all 5 positions in college. I don't think he started a lot of games, but the few games I watched him, I like his movement skills. I like his awareness. And he looks to be strong, and he can only get stronger. And yeah, Dominique, just like you said, moving forward, O-line would definitely be an area of concern. We only have so many years with Tyron Smith. Zach Martin's starting to get up there. So that's 2 Hall of Famers we may be losing in the next 3 years. And Connor Williams, we haven't made any commitments to him. He's in the last year of his deal. So a scary thing to think of, worst case scenario, 3/5 of our offensive line could be playing their last season. And I'm not confident that we have the guys to fill those spots if we do. And Geechee saying we went cheap, blame Mr. Cap. That's why we didn't re-sign Looney. I agree with that. But Looney hasn't been signed to anybody yet, so you never know what'll happen. The beauty of this season, it looks like we're going to have a training camp and some preseason games. So these centers should get some snaps. So we'll be able to see kind of what they're made of in the NFL. Jack Meeker, what do we think about McCarthy referring to our new advisor helping both offense and defensive coordinators? I'll be 100% honest. I think it's a BS answer. Like I said, we're pushing narratives. I said this last week, and I'm sticking to it. Ben McAdoo is here to train our backup quarterbacks. And Matt O, thank you again. He shared a tweet with me today where it talked about the 3 drives for Ben DiNucci. One of them was a completion. The next one, it was a sack. The next one was a pick 6. And all 3 passes were sidearm passes. I talked about this last week. These guys are playing a crucial position on the team at quarterback. And they don't have a lot of money because they're late round picks or undrafted guys and Gary Gilbert. This team has to go. And Dak is not going to hold anybody's hand. We're coming off a underperforming season. So we're pretty much going to have to be all systems go with our offense. So that's going to take away from our quarterback coach and our OC being to work with the young guys as much as we like them to. So I honestly feel like Ben McAdoo was brought here because he was Mike McCarthy's former quarterback coach. He understands what McCarthy likes in quarterbacks because they've been together for a while. I feel like he's here to pull the backup quarterbacks aside and work with them. I think that's his job. On top of that, like I said before, there are rules in place that say coaches can only work with players for so long. Those rules aren't in place for specialists or advisors. So McAdoo has an ability to be paid by the team and get work with these guys that our coaches wouldn't be able to. All that other stuff, I think that's BS. I don't see how he can help our offensive defensive coordinators. If that were the case, you could have made him the quarterback coach because our quarterback coach was a converted tight end coach. So Mendoza asks, is Neal a Cowboy next year? That remains to be seen. Honestly, I feel like at some point we're going to see him at safety. So if they feel like he might be the safety of the future, I say yes. I don't see a real future for him at linebacker for this team. But I honestly feel like by week 5, we'll see him playing more as safety than linebacker. Just my opinion. Eric Berger, thank you for tuning in. Appreciate your support. He asked, is Dak healthy? He didn't need O-line stars before he went down. That remains to be seen. It's week 2 of OTAs. We're going to slow play stuff. We'll really see how things look once training camp starts. Brent Widener makes a great point. People don't realize it was horrible to scout this year's draft. They barely had any showings and guys opted out. There'll be a lot of unknown stars out of this draft. And I believe Dallas scouts good enough to hit 1 or 2 hidden stars. I mean, historically, we have 2 guys who are undrafted who make the team. And they usually contribute pretty quickly. So definitely, I agree with that. And again, going back to what I said before, just like we didn't have a good chance to scout guys, the other 31 teams didn't have a chance to scout their guys. So what that means is instead of somebody looking in our backyard, they may want to keep a guy that they brought in that they liked to see if he can develop into what they think he'll be. And I feel like for that reason, there are going to be a bunch of guys who the team look at and say, you know what? I think we can cut this guy and we can get him on the practice squad, because I feel like the other 31 teams are thinking the same thing. I don't think there's going to be a lot of poaching, because you guys remember this. There are The cuts, I believe, go from like 70 to 53 or 80 to 53 in one day. So that means there's going to be 800 guys available as free agents at one time. I know we all think that Dallas is just, I know they're America's team and I know everybody watches them media wise, but I think it's a little too arrogant for us to believe that all 31 teams are going to sit and watch who we cut to try to pick them up. They're just as concerned about their guys as they are with ours. All right, so we're at 41 minutes now. I see my guy Lambo hasn't touched base with us yet, so let me check with him to see if he's coming in. And if he's not, I'm going to talk a little bit of special teams because I haven't had a chance to hit on this in a while. All right, so like I said before, I'm big on special teams, and a lot of people don't talk about this in terms of other podcasts or even NFL experts. Special teams are important for building a team. So let me just give you guys this quick breakdown of my assessment of special teams. So first of all, when you look at special teams, you have to look at the makeup of an NFL game. And before I start, if you guys haven't done so already, make sure you share this because I'm about to get some info that most people don't think about. And I want to make sure as many people as possible can see this. So when they hear people talk about special teams or their favorite player is cut, they kind of have a better understanding why that happened. So if you haven't done so already, guys, make sure you share this. Share it to your favorite Cowboys group. Share it to your personal page. Also like this as well. And keep the comments and the questions coming too. Because like I said, a lot of people don't really think about special teams. So you guys may have some questions about the makeup of it and the importance of it in certain positions. So first of all, like I was saying, you start off with the makeup of an NFL game. There are snaps for offense, defense, and special teams. There's 3 phases of football. We have to remember that. I think fans forget that sometimes, but there are 3 phases. So just off my experience, looking at a typical NFL game, the offense and defense have about 65 snaps a game. So it roughly breaks down 15 to 18 snaps a quarter. Now, in between those offense and defensive snaps, there are normally about 32 to 36 snaps a game for special teams. And people don't really realize that because they don't think about it, but that means a third of all snaps are going to special teams. It's basically a third offense, a third defense, a third special teams. So now we do a further breakdown of the special teams snaps. So we look at a breakdown, and this is just a rough estimate, just off my opinion. It could be more, it could be less. It really is based on a game by game situation. So on average, at least for this team, let's say defensively we give up 30 points a game. That's 3 touchdowns and 3 field goals. And then on average, we score about 30 points a game. So 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals, more or less. Every time the team gets a touchdown or a field goal, they have to kick the ball off. So that's roughly 6 snaps a game going to kickoff. And converse to that, there's about 6 snaps for kickoff return. Because if the other team scores 6 times, each time they score, they have to kick it off to us and vice versa. Same thing with field goal. Field goal / extra point. So every time the team scores a touchdown, they have to kick an extra point. That's extra point / field goal. That's 6 snaps a game. Converse to that, every time the other team scores a touchdown or kicks a field goal, we have to put our field goal block unit on the field. So they get about 6 snaps a game as well. And then lastly, this one changes. This is the one that really changes on a game-by-game basis. We could punt the ball 4 to 6 times, or we could do punt return 4 to 6 times. It really depends on the game situation. Now, I used to have arguments with people where I would say someone plays every special team, and they would say, well, that's not the case because player X only played 55% of all special team snaps if you look up his snap count. Let me break that down a little bit. So, when you look at the field goal extra point unit, that unit is made up 100% of offensive linemen and tight ends. So if you were to go and Google the snap count for any offensive lineman, starter, backup, whatever, you're going to see that they play roughly 14 to 18% of special team snaps. So if you assume that each one of these special teams units is 16%, that's where they get that from. So pretty much every offensive lineman is going to play 14 to 16% of the special team snaps. Some might be a little bit more, some might be a little bit less. Now, you go to field goal block. And again, if anybody has any questions or comments about this, if I'm saying something wrong, please correct me because I want to make sure I put the right information out there. So when you go to field goal block is normally made up of defensive linemen, linebackers, and DBs. And it's usually only 1 or 2 DBs, the ones that rush on the edges. All the guys in the inside are usually defensive tackles, and then the linebackers are kind of the up backs that stand behind them. Now, our defensive linemen are normally about 16% as well. And then you go to punt return and punt team, and that's when you mix in the wide receivers and the safeties and the running backs and stuff like that. And kickoff return. So when I say a guy plays every special team, like a Noah Brown, for example, I'm normally taking field goal and field goal block out of my equation because those are usually dedicated to a certain player. Field goal is almost 100% offensive lineman and tight end. So because of that reason, hardly anybody's going to ever have 100% of special team snaps. So normally I'm looking at kickoff return, punt return, and field goal block to an extent. Now, this is where I talk about the importance of special teams. Every special teams has a core group of players. And when I say core group, I mean every special team is going to have 5 or 6 guys that play kickoff return, punt return. And if they're defensive guys, they're probably going to play field goal block as well. So if you see one guy who has 80% of the snaps and one guy has 60%, more than likely the guy who has 80% is going to be a DB or a linebacker because those guys will play more field goal block than an offensive guy would. So now, like I said before, every team has a core special team. So now I'm going to tell you guys the top 6 guys on our team and special teams. And again, anybody has any questions or comments, hit me up. Let me know what you think about this so far. If you got any corrections for me, let me know as well. Give me 1 second. I'm messaging Lambo. All right. So now, like I talked about before, core special teamers. These are our top 6 special teams guys on the team right now. No surprise, CJ Goodwin plays 70% of special teams. This one is surprising to most people. Dorrance Armstrong plays 62% of special teams. And then Darian Thompson is right behind him with 56%. Noah Brown and Francis Bernard come in at 47%. And Rico Dowdle comes in at 43%. Now, everybody always hear me talk about Noah Brown and his importance on special teams. If you look on this list, in years past, the number 5 guy was Justin March or Joe Thomas. So every year Noah Brown has been in the league, except for last year, he was the only offensive player who was top 5 in special team snaps. Think about that. And thank you for tuning in, Matto. I appreciate it. This is why every year I talk about Noah Brown's going to make this team because of his special teams importance. He's every year been the top offensive player in getting special team snaps. That's major, and that's going to secure him a spot on this team as long as his salary stays low. So, as you guys remember, or you've seen in OTAs, Rico Dowdle's been playing everywhere on special teams. He's playing kick return, punt return. He's playing gunner. That tells me his special team snaps are about to go way up. And when I said earlier in the show that I have concerns about Noah Brown, that's because I think Rico Dowdle is going to become the next wave of our core special teams. Now, that could be replacing Darian Thompson as well, because Darian Thompson was our gunner in years past. But the other reason I feel like these guys are kind of secure, look at the offensive defensive snaps. CJ Goodwin only plays 1% of all the defensive snaps. Francis Bernard played 1/10% of the defensive snaps. Not 1%, 0.1%. And Rico Dowdle played 1% of the offensive snaps. So then you look at the 3 guys in the middle, Dorrance Armstrong, Darian Thompson, Noah Brown. Dorrance Armstrong, while being our second leader in special team snaps, also was our probably 3rd or 4th highest player on snaps on the defensive end position. So that's a lot of snaps that people want to get rid of. That's why I always say I think Armstrong has a spot on this team because of his importance on special teams and because how many snaps he plays on defense. And then same thing with Darian Thompson. He's playing 56% of special team snaps, and he's also contributing 43% of the defensive snaps. Now, last year I think that was kind of an anomaly because we went through the whole HaHa Clinton Dix fiasco, and I think Thompson was kind of forced to start a little bit more than the team wanted him to. So I feel like this 43% is kind of misleading. But then we look at Noah Brown. Noah Brown, while playing 47% of special team snaps, he also contributed 20% of the offensive snaps. That's a lot of snaps for our number 5 receiver on a team with 3 dominant guys. He actually had more offensive snaps than Cedric Wilson while having twice as many special team snaps. So I just wanted to put that out there real quick because I know a lot of people hear me talk about special teams and the importance and how I think it holds up to the makeup of a team. So we definitely got a bunch of guys we got to pay attention to. And honestly, I think as much as we love certain defensive ends like a Francis Bernard or the undrafted guy from last year, it's going to be hard to upseat Dorrance Armstrong. As much as we love Brandon Eagles and TJ Vasher and Simi Fihoko and whatever other wide receiver we got, it's going to be hard to unseat Noah Brown because they're giving you a bunch of special team snaps while also contributing to offense and defense, respectively. All right, so that's my little spiel on special teams. If anybody has any questions or comments, please let me know what you're thinking. Because I'm curious to what you guys think about what I just said. Because usually when I talk to special teams, it seems like people kind of tune me out and they just want to believe what they want to believe about their pet cats. But that stuff is important. And I think my guy Lambo is going to be joining me pretty soon. So if you guys are still here, stick with me for another 10 minutes and we'll get Lambo's thoughts on the 53-man roster. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like this. Also, make sure you share it as well. And let me know what you think about 53-man roster. All right, so I think Lambo's coming in a minute. So I'll go through my 53-man roster list. So let me check with him. All right, guys, I see the comments are starting to slow down a little bit. So get back in the comments for a second. Ask me any questions you guys got. Eric Berger says Lambo on special teams losing snaps by the minute. Brent Widener says that Fossil was one of the best coaching pickups. He showed us some of his talent last year without Dak and through chaos. Definitely. He brought a lot of wrinkles to our special teams that we didn't have before. And again, I think he's going to slowly start to build his own core special teams unit. I feel like CJ Goodwin's definitely going to be one of those guys. From what we hear, the little bit we hear out of training camp, OTAs, it sounds like Rico Dowdle's going to start to have a big impact on special teams. So one of the things I'm curious about, all these big receivers we got in undrafted free agency. I know a lot of fans think, well, TJ Vasher looks so great. He has a great catch radius. How much of that was for their offense and how much of it was because of special teams? Because I know Brandon Eagles was a great special teamer at Texas. So I'm curious, were these offensive signings or were these special team signings? And I've been talking about Cedric Wilson for about 3 months. I feel like the writing's on the wall for him. And I feel like all the stuff we're seeing are kind of signs that he may be getting the boot soon. And Mendoza asked a great question about Dixon. Do I think he makes the team? And when we talk about, I'm trying to think of which Dixon you're talking about. I went blank on Dixon, Mendoza. Let me know which Dixon you're talking about. All right, guys. And if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the comments. And again, just thinking about training camp, Johnny Dixon. Yeah. The guy we picked up from Ohio State, the wide receiver who's kind of known for being a gunner and a punt returner. That's a great question. Because again, I went back and watched some tape from last year. And one thing I noticed in terms of our gunner position, which is one of the most important positions on special teams, our gunners were Darian Thompson and Cedric Wilson almost the entire year. And I'm hearing that Rico Dowdle's starting to get snaps at gunner. Who's he pushing out? Is it Thompson? Is it Wilson? Is it both? And then they bring a Johnny Dixon in, who's known for being a gunner and a punt returner. Those are both the positions that Cedric Wilson played. Same for Rico Dowdle. So are they trying to speculate that Cedric Wilson may get pushed off of special teams? He already isn't contributing offensively. So what does that mean about his chances on making the team? To be honest, again, like I said, I think they're going to start to build their new special teams core. So some of these older guys who are in the 40 and 50% range in special teams, they could get phased out. So that makes a guy like a Darian Thompson or Francis Bernard or Cedric Wilson become expendable. And if Johnny Dixon is a great gunner and he's an above average punt returner, I think he makes this team, honestly. because I feel like even though we haven't heard a lot of good stuff about Semi so far, I think he's good enough to be a number 4 receiver and give you those 15 to 18 catches a year. Because again, our number 4 receiver only gets 18 catches a season. So it's not like you need a potential all-star at that spot. You just need a guy who can come in the game and know what he's doing and give you maybe 2 catches at any given game. Our number 6 receiver last year, I think, is in jeopardy because he was an undrafted guy. So I think that spot's pretty much gone. I think that spot's gone already. And I'm sorry I went blank on his name, but I think that spot is gone. So I think that opens up a position. And then we talk about if Semi can be that number 4 guy, that makes a Cedric Wilson more expendable because he's already not playing special teams and he's not doing much on offense, regardless of the narrative I've heard people say about he's in tune with Dak and he's a major offensive contributor. The stats don't suggest that. So, yeah, he has a good shot. He has just as good a shot as anybody, especially if he can come in and give us something on punt return. I honestly think whoever gives us the best opportunity at punt return, if it's a wide receiver, he's definitely making a team over somebody because we haven't had a good punt returner since in probably 5 or 6 years at least. Eric Berger says he feels like there's a lot of positions on special teams that aren't difficult to fill with the body. He also feels like the gap between great, good, and bad isn't very big. Obviously, a bigger gap with skill positions, but rarely needle movers. Now, I'll disagree with you on this one, Eric. I think special teams is very difficult to fill with a body for your core 5 or 6. Now, if you're going 7 through 12, I say, okay, as long as we got CJ Goodwin and another good gunner opposite him and Noah Brown running the middle, and then the punter long snapper, that's 5 positions right there. The other 6 guys, as long as you got those 3 core guys, the other 6 guys, whoever can run fast and get downfield, okay, hopefully our gunners can take care of that. Same thing on kickoff return. If we got a guy like a Noah Brown who's good at blocking and they scheme it up so that 80% of the time, whoever the kick returner is, he's going to run to the right behind Armstrong and Brown and Dowdle and McKeon. Okay, whoever the other 5 guys are, just put a body out there. But that core 6, 5 or 6, you have to pick the best of the best. Because if you don't, you end up with 2018 and 2019 Cowboys special teams when we let go of Justin March, Kayvon Frazier, Rod Smith, and I can't think who else we let go of. But we let go of 4 core special teamers. And Kayvon Frazier, my mistake. And our special teams went to shit because nobody could make a tackle because they got rid of both of our gunners and our inside guy. And by the way, Noah Brown was hurt that year too. So teams were just running wild on us on punt return and kick return. And then we didn't have guys who knew how to block well on kickoff return. So we can't let that happen with core special teamers. 7 through 11, 6 through 11, okay, we can maybe put a body there. And now your second comment about the gap between good, great, good, and bad isn't very big. I agree with that one. And that's why I feel like a guy like Dorrance Armstrong will stick around. Now, here's one of my pet peeves about us as a fan base. We assume every guy who isn't a Pro Bowler is trash. Certain guys have certain roles on this team. And I use Dorrance Armstrong for an example because he plays a lot of snaps on this team. And I just find it unfair for a fan to say our number 4 defensive end is trash because he doesn't get more than 1 sack, but the leader of the team in sacks doesn't have more than 6. To me, that's a little unfair and hypocritical. Dorrance Armstrong's job, and this is just him for an example. I hate to sound like I'm trying to build I'm trying to carry the flag for Dorrance Armstrong, but this is the one position that is really noticeable in. Dorrance Armstrong, his job as the number 4 defensive end is to contain and give you good snaps and not give up plays. That's his job. His job isn't to get 5 or 6 sacks. His job isn't to be an all pro rusher. His job is when he's on the field, if they run the ball, he needs to contain on his side, front side or back side. And when he's in on passing downs, he does need to give the quarterback a running lane or a throwing lane. And he does a pretty good job at that. On top of special teams, I think is what keeps him here. Same thing on like the secondary position. Again, Darian Thompson shouldn't have played 43% of the snaps last year. But to call him awful when we had Xavier Woods as our starter the last 3 years, that's a little bit unfair to Darian Thompson, in my opinion. Now, that's not saying I'm campaigning to keep either one of those guys here, but let's not put them in the great category. Like you said, the gap isn't that big, but we can't try to put everybody in the great category when they're the number 4 guy at their position. And Mendoza says, I wonder if Dak will campaign for said. To be honest, like I said before, Cedric Wilson has the same amount of catches for his career as Noah Brown. So we really don't know about this connection that we've heard them have. And again, Dak is the leader. If Dak likes him, he stays. But I just try to look at things. I try to take the fan hat off when I look at stuff like this. And I look at production and I look at statistics. And statistically, he's giving you the same amount of offensive snaps and the same level of production as Noah Brown. But Noah Brown's giving you twice the special teams, the special teams contributions. I'm not going to try to pronounce your first name. If you can give it to me phonetically in the comments, I'll try to pronounce it. But I don't want to butcher your first name. But Pollard, great question. This is just my opinion again. And again, this is week 2 of OTAs. So I have nothing to base my opinion off of. All I can go off of is just what I see in terms of this team right now. When I look at the makeup of this team right now, I don't really see how Cox can get a lot of playing time unless it's on special teams. Because Jalen, as much as we don't like Jalen has historically gotten 90% of the snaps. Every year. Coming off injury. Pro Bowl year. Bad year. He's gotten 90% of the snaps every year. He's not coming off the field. And this is through multiple coaching staffs. Yeah, that's through multiple coaching staffs. So there's going to be a role for Jalen. Keanu Neal, he's the coach's pet cat. There are going to be snaps for him at linebacker and at safety, in my opinion. Then you got Michael Parsons, first round pick. There's going to be a shit ton of snaps for him. Top 15 pick. Oh, he's playing. And then you got Leighton Vander Esch. If he's healthy, he's going to get the snaps. Plain and simple. So that's 4 linebackers right there who are going to dominate snaps. And this team, in my opinion, I don't believe the 3-4 hype. We're going to be 60 to 70% nickel. which means they're going to be 2 linebackers on the field, and you've got 4 guys to rotate those numbers between. I think all those guys are ahead of Cox right now. So I don't see how Cox can get snaps with those 4 guys in front of him at linebacker. And that's kind of why I brought up using him as a strong safety, because in the cover 3 scheme, the wheel linebacker and the strong safety have very similar duties. Curl flat, cover the outs. Every once in a while, you may have to play deep third if you're trying to switch it up. But for the most part, you contain, curl flat, middle hook. That's the strong safety. If you want to get Cox on the field, Donovan Wilson needs a breather at strong safety. Whoever his backup is, you don't feel like he's very good in terms of run defense, put Cox out there. Add another guy to help in the run game. This is not saying if it's 3rd and 15, you put Cox at safety. No. If we're in goal line and it's 1st and 8 and Donovan Wilson is injured or he's tired, put Cox at strong safety. Eric Berger just said it. He's one of the best cover linebackers day one. You're telling me if all he has to do is cover 8 yards, you can't put him at strong safety and trail a tight end or a running back out of the backfield? If it's 1st and 10 and a team is in 12 personnel or 13 personnel or 21 personnel, I'm sorry, I'm throwing numbers out there. If a team has 2 tight ends on the field and 2 wide receivers, or they have a running back and a fullback and 2 tight ends, so you know they're running heavy, like what Minnesota did to us a few years back. You're telling me if I'm looking at 22 personnel with a running back, a fullback, and 2 big tight ends who are known for blocking, you're telling me I can't put Cox at strong safety to give us another body out there? That's where I feel like Cox's role will be. Because unless a couple of people get hurt, he's not getting very many snaps over Neal. He's not getting snaps over Parsons. We all hope he's going to get snaps over Jalen, but based off history and the relationship with the owner, that's probably not happening. And Leighton Vander Esch, if he's healthy, he's not getting snaps over him. And like I said, we're only going to be running 2 linebackers a majority of the time. So the snaps are going to be few and far between. So yeah, great question, Pollard. I'm sorry I gave you a kind of long roundabout answer for that, but I just feel like I had to say that because people were kind of killing my guy, Boss Cowboy, talking about Cox at safety. It's not far-fetched, especially if the personnel dictates it. But again, if we're playing mostly nickel and we got four linebackers that are out there, I don't see how we can squeeze him in enough for the fan base to be happy. And Mendoza asked the question of the 6 guys you showed, who of the new guys brought in do you think could take field one of those roles? Good question. Let me go back to that really quick because, again, I've already kind of forgotten who I put up here. So these are my 6 core special teams guys based off of the snaps that they got during the season. Now, looking at this list, I'm trying to think of just new guys in general. I'll point out a couple names that I really like. This is my first one, Chauncey Golston. Chauncey Golston is going to be a man in special teams, I think. If the team wants to get rid of Dorrance Armstrong, I think this will be the guy who will possibly allow them to move on from him in terms of defense and on special teams, because he's a very good special teams player. And then we go here. Israel Mukwamu. I don't think he played a lot of special teams in South Carolina, but he has the height, weight, speed. He has the mentality. He's a great open field tackler. He has awesome awareness. This is the type of guy who can come in and be a special teams ace. Now, I don't know whose position he would take. Maybe a Darian Thompson would be in jeopardy because of this, especially if you bring in a guy like Johnny Dixon, who Mendoza brought up before, can be our gunner, because I think Darian Thompson was our gunner as well. And then we go to another guy, Nashawn Wright. Nobody's talked about him in terms of special teams. He's tall. He's good going straight ahead. He has really good awareness. I don't know if he's mentally tough enough to be a gunner, but they could find a spot for him on special teams. I don't know if he would be a guy who could pull one of the top 6, but I could definitely see him being a guy who could be a 35, 40% snap guy. Now, the guy we just talked about right here, Jabril Cox. This is a guy, height, weight, speed, athleticism. I could see him taking a couple spots because I think he can give it to you in multiple positions. So with a guy like Cox, obviously, Francis Bernard has to be put on notice. I think he could put Darian Thompson on notice. He could also put Noah Brown on notice. But I feel like for Noah Brown, it would have to be an offensive player who would make him lose his spot. Just because, like I've been saying about the top 3 wide receivers being so ball dominant. And then that takes us to another guy that everybody's been kind of talking about, and Mendoza put me on this one first. Brandon Eagles, wide receiver from Texas. This kid played special teams all 3 years in college. And from what I've read, he was their best special teamer. And Mendoza first put this on my mind when they talked about rookie minicamp and said he looked better on special teams than Semi did. So this is one of those kids where if we talk about an undrafted guy who could possibly make the team, this is the guy we need to keep our eye on, because from a special team standpoint, he may come in and get some spots. And I'll give you one more because this is my pet cat on offense. Brandon Smith, wide receiver out of Iowa. And I talked about this one with Professor O. He has Michael Gallup type quality. 6'2", 200 pounds, 22 on the bench press, 4.5 speed. He plays above the rim. Great leaping ability. Great ability to high point the ball. His hands are a little inconsistent. But what he has on Gallup, this kid will block a nose tackle if you put him in front of him. This kid does not shy away from contact. I mean, the few games I watched, if he wasn't running a route, he was looking for somebody to hit. This is one of those kids I could see if Malik Turner, who was our number 6 receiver last year, this is a kid that's in direct competition with him and Cedric and Noah. So that's just a few of the names that I really like who could possibly push one of our top 6 off the team in terms of special teams. So great question, Mendoza. Thank you. And Eric Berger says Semi and Noah come to mind. Definitely. And let's see. The Wuggle looks like a new name. So thank you for joining. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to my social media on Bluff City Cowboys on YouTube and on Twitter. So make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you follow. Definitely appreciate your support. All right, we're at 1 hour and 20 minutes. I don't think my guy Lambo is joining us tonight. His son had a basketball game. And from the way Lambo talks, in the next 15 years, we may be looking at our next future Cowboy, because he said his son's team, which is I think 4-year-old or 5-year-old, They won the game 15-5 today, and his son scored 10 of the 15 points. All right, well, the Wuggle, I see you called in before, so definitely appreciate your support. Thank you, man. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you for following. And Noah, like Mendoza says, yeah, Noah has to be put on notice. And Smith, I just like him. He may not have a chance to make the team. This is definitely a practice squad guy at the minimum. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in the camp. If we're looking for a guy who's going to make some highlight catches, I would probably put him and Vasher at the top of my list if they're playing with the number 2 and number 3 groups. And like I said, this guy loves to get dirty as a wide receiver, which is rare. So definitely one of those things we have to watch out for. All right, guys, we're at an hour 20 minutes. And again, like I said, I don't think Lambo's calling in or tuning in. So we're probably going to pick back up next week where Lambo and I will give you guys our projections for the 53-man roster. I think we have one more week of OTAs, and then it kind of goes dark for a couple of weeks. So this will give us a good chance to kind of put some filler content in there, get you guys opinions. I've kind of given you my thoughts on special teams, so you have a pretty good idea of the bottom of the roster and where I think I'm going to go in terms of the 50 through 53 players, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. And before I go, let me give you guys a quick refresher on what we talked about last week, where I talked about all 53 players. Let me see if I still got that. So, yeah. So, next week, we're going to talk 53-man roster. This right here is going to list out the 52. And we decided that the 53rd position would be keeping 5 defensive tackles. So, we're definitely going to put 5 defensive tackles in. So, guys, if you weren't here last week, just take a quick look at this so you can kind of see how many people we think are going to keep at every position, and be prepared to give us your comments next week because I'm interested in who you guys think we're going to keep on the 53-man roster as well. And again, I'm really tempted to go 10 offensive linemen or 7 defensive ends. Or 4 tight ends. But everybody says 5 defensive tackles. I'm pretty sure you guys know who the 5th defensive tackle is that I don't think is going to make the team. But we'll save that for next week because we went to 5 defensive tackles. It looks like he's going to make it another week. All right, guys. So that's pretty much it for this week. So thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate your support. And again, if you don't know, let me know if you guys can hear this. Can you guys hear the music? I brought it back now for this week. So again, if you guys don't know, I'm Marcus Jones, the Bluff City Cowboy. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Bluff City Cowboy. You can also find me on Twitter at Bluff Cowboy. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Your participation and your support means a lot, and it goes a long way towards getting us to more exposure and possibly being able to monetize what we do. Thank you, everybody who made comments today. Great questions, great comments as always. You guys are who fuel the show. So make sure you tune in next week, 7:30 Central Standard Time, for next week's episode of the Cowboy Zone. As always, I'm Marcus. My co-host Lambo will be back next week. Thank you guys for tuning in, and have a good week. I'm out.